Hey everyone, Keenan Gray here from DyeStat.com, bringing you another edition of DyeStat Discussions. It is a big week again in collegiate cross country. The Nuttycombe Invitational this Friday from Madison, Wisconsin. So many nationally ranked teams are going to be in Wisconsin this week. And of course, one of those teams is the number 16 team in the country, the Virginia Cavaliers. And one of their guys that will be leading the way for them is none other than Gary Martin. He joins us here on DyeStat Discussions. Gary, a pleasure to have you on. I know you're more of a miler, middle distance guy, but we're about to test your fitness here and see you in the longer stuff. Just tell us about the excitement. It seems like for everybody going to this meet this week, it's their very first time testing out the Nuttycombe course.
Yeah, I think that's what's super exciting. I mean, it's a really storied course. I mean, I know we've watched videos of national meets there, like Nuttycombes in the past. I remember watching it last year. So I think really the big thing will just be going out there, running against some of the best teams in the country, getting a feel for the course since nationals will be there, and also just testing the fitness because it's early in the season.
Mhm. And really kind of just getting a kind of feel, like you said, some of those teams, like, I mean, you're going to see BYU, Iowa State, North Carolina, obviously host Wisconsin, and a couple of those teams, also on the East Coast side that you've already seen the ACC. But, this is an opportunity to kind of get a feel where the team is at and kind of see what you guys are able to do on this course since, again, this course is going to be nationals this year. Like you said, you guys have seen this race on national TV, like for ESPN or like for NCAA championships. What are your guys' first initial thoughts when you see the course, whether it be on TV or maybe photos you've seen from other people?
The one thing I know for sure is that I've heard there's a big uphill at the end, which is to be prepared for. And just from talking to our coaches, it sounds like it's not maybe not crazy hills, but kind of like a tough course, just kind of like rolling hills from what I've heard at least and from what I've seen. But it kind of reminds me of our home course at Panorama Farms where we ran nationals last year. So I think hopefully just training out there, like racing out there, is going to prepare us for like whatever Nuttycombe brings. Because I'm expecting a difficult course. Hopefully not anything crazy, anything we can't handle. But I think it's definitely going to be a battle of who's tougher and who can handle the terrain better.
Well, if I'm looking at the weather, especially from last year, I don't think it's going to be like last year at all, where it was
I don't think
basically
so
just
either.
torrential downpour. And, obviously Graham Blanks had a great race. Parker Valley on the women's side had a phenomenal race. And, rain plays a little factor. But like you kind of said, like it's a little similar as far as terrain wise to the Virginia course that you guys obviously hosted NCAA championships at last year. So speaking of which, last year obviously was not necessarily a great end for the cross country season, especially you guys on your home course. But you pretty much bring the entire core back this year, and especially what you guys did in the spring with what you were able to accomplish, what Wes was able to accomplish, and even though Shane's not technically a part of the team anymore, but he's helping out as like kind of an assistant, there was so much momentum from the spring season that I feel like it's going to carry over. How proud were you guys just after what you accomplished? And, I'm pretty sure Vin probably would say the same exact thing. Like that was a really good season for the Cavs.
Yeah, like you said, I think cross country was a little underwhelming for us because we knew, like, looking at our roster, we knew we had so much talent, like so many guys who had good races throughout the year, but we just didn't really put it together in the postseason. And then going into track, like, just things clicked, like for Wes, for Shane, like for Nate, for Yassine, like I think we were firing on, and Will. Sorry, I didn't even mention Will, but Will Anthony, he was ACC, like killed it there. So I think everything was really clicking on all cylinders for us but towards the end of indoor and then really like throughout all of outdoor. So I think it was a big confidence boost, like winning the outdoor championships and scoring like a ton, winning the outdoor ACC championships and scoring a ton of points on the distance side. So I think just really like carrying that momentum and having guys who kind of like stepped up to the next level and became national caliber names during outdoor track, I think it's going to really translate on the cross country course this season.
What was the impact of having a guy like Shane who, he was a veteran guy at the Tampa University at the D2 level, but you bring in this guy, it's like, all right, what is he able to do from a Division One standpoint? And he was an immediate impact already. So what influential things that he have for you guys that kind of, brought this big dynamic and positive things into this team?
I mean, I think off the track, what Shane brings is he's just like he's a really good guy to be around. Like I think whenever you're running with Shane, like it's easy to just like relax and have fun. And I think he's just like a really fun person to be around. So I think he brings that. And then on the track, he's just a competitor. Like I've never seen someone hunker down in the last like 100, 200 meters and just really have that kind of mindset of, hey, like I'm down by whatever 20, 30 meters, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm going to go get this guy. So I think just like seeing what he did at ACCs, regionals, nationals, the trials, and really where he was able to ascend to into like the national ranks, I think it just shows us that if you if you want it like that, and if you're willing to hunker down and like get tough at the end of a race, like maybe we're not going to be fighting for a national championship or like an Olympic or like a Olympic spot like he was, but I think we can learn in the last 400 meters of Nuttycombe, just get tough and fight.
I'm sure Robbie Andrews was very proud of just seeing that finish, very similar to when he won his NCAA championship a long time ago. So yeah, kind of just obviously like a couple of you guys got to qualify for the trials this year just to get to experience that. When the trials was over with, like what was really like kind of the biggest takeaway from the outdoor season, or heck, even just the entire year when you look back to the cross season, to indoor and outdoor, just kind of building upon going into the future?
I think the biggest takeaway for me was just that like having guys who are running that well is like it's a ton of fun, and it's just like it snowballs. Like when if you can stay consistent and you can have a bunch of guys who are just training at a high level and who are healthy and running really well, like you don't have to do anything crazy. Like we're not going out and we're not racing or hammering every workout, but just like work together, like take your mind off it by letting like some guys lead workouts. Like you don't have to lead them all the time, and just really just stay consistent, like get good mileage in, get just like quality workouts in, and you're going to keep getting better. So I think that was the big thing. Like I know all the pieces are in place moving forward, like in this cross country season. So I just have to stay consistent, which so far we have been, I have been, and I think we're going to keep getting better, and we're going to really run well this year.
Big opportunities that you were able to get this last year is obviously signing an NIL deal with Brooks. In this day and age with how collegiate athletics has just changed drastically with all the bringing in this money and trying to get athletes paid. But what has Brooks done for you to kind of maybe not necessarily maybe elevate your game a little bit, but also like, provide something for you that you may have not necessarily had when you were maybe in high school or maybe your freshman year?
I think Brooks has provided me with support both like on and off the track. Like obviously, they have great shoes, great products that I've been lucky to train in, and I think that's really helped me. But also like just the support they've had for me to like put myself out there, like create content. Like I think they believe in me, and like allowing me to fly out to Seattle, like be a big part of Brooks PR and their events. Like I think it's just been a lot of fun to really engage with the running community and allow Brooks to like put me out there and just kind of like expand my horizons and grow like not only as a runner on the track, but also just like grow my influence in the sport and like get to be involved in more parts of running.
The first time that we met each other was actually at the Brooks PR meet your senior year. I mean, going back to the time, we were standing on the rooftop of the Brooks headquarters. We were talking to, I think I was talking to you, I was talking to Colin Solomon. I mean, obviously, you guys have done phenomenal things since graduating high school at your respective universities. But is that something you kind of like thought of at the time? Now, NIL, I don't even think NIL was a thing during that time, but it was like, was that something you could have imagined that somebody could offer me an opportunity to not only help me out with my running career, but also I can make some money here and potentially help out maybe my family, myself, and whoever else really needs my help.
Honestly, I don't at that time I don't even think that was something I would have considered had to be an opportunity. Like at that time I was just thinking I felt extremely lucky to like be at an event like Brooks PR and like other events in high school, because I think it's pretty rare where you get to like hang out with your biggest competitors and like get to know them and like really become friends over like a 3-day period. Like you're not doing that in college. You're not going hanging out in hotels with your biggest rivals, because you're really it's which is there's pluses to being with your team, but it's kind of fun to get to know the competitors as well. So I think that was really where my mind was at when I was at Brooks PR. I was just feeling lucky to get to meet people. But now that I'm in college and I saw other people starting to sign NIL deals, like obviously it's something you think about. Like I feel really lucky to have this opportunity. Like guys in the past haven't, to just make a little bit of money and be able to have the support of like a brand like Brooks. And I think that's a pretty cool opportunity that we get to have now.
And I think of a guy like Henry Wynn, who back then, like there was no NIL back then, and he's a Virginia alum, and you get to interact with a guy like him. I mean, being, kind of just around those pros, and I know you're not necessarily a pro, but like, are you learning some things from them? And it's a very good group that Danny Mackey has over at the Brooks Beast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just when I traveled out to Seattle for Brooks PR, I got to I got to meet the Beast and talk to them a bit, and even Henry, like Henry especially, I've seen him at meets, and as a Virginia guy, like I feel like he always is willing to come up and talk to us, and I always thought that was pretty cool. I feel like there's something you can learn, or at least definitely be inspired by. Like this is a guy who went to UVA, literally I think lived in the same house I was in, like lived in the same conditions. So, I think it's pretty cool when there's guys not only from Virginia but just from other guys like Isaiah Harris who you can look up to, and you know they're super nice guys. They're there to support you, and I think it's super helpful, like to have that connection through a brand like Brooks while you're in college still.
We won't forget about the bronze medalist or the silver medalist, I should say, either when he from Great Britain, Mr. Josh Kerr, of
Of
course.
course, yeah.
Yeah. So, looking at your team this year, as I said, a lot of guys are back this year. What did the summer look like for you guys? It seemed like, just kind of basing off what I've seen in the spring and how many guys qualified for NCAAs, you're middle distance heavy. How do you guys kind of transcribe that into the longer stuff, especially when it's all said and done, you have to run back-to-back 10Ks in the NCAA championship season?
Yeah, I think when you look at like our top 10, we have a wide range of guys like coming from different backgrounds. Like I think when you go to the track, like the best events on our top 10 range from the 800 to the 10K. So everyone's training differently. I think some guys who didn't go to the trials or maybe just had an earlier end of their season are a little farther along in training, like higher mileage, higher volume. But the guys who went to the trials, I think it's been a pretty clean build for us, and just kind of building the mileage up. But I don't think we're ever going to be a crazy like you know hammering the aerobic stuff team. Like we're a really good track team, and middle distance is definitely the specialty for a lot of our guys. So I think it's really just getting in quality mileage, like making the most of our workouts, and even like training runs, long runs, stuff like that. So you know, still running a lot of mileage, a lot of volume, and getting strong, but just making sure we're like deliberate with how we use those miles.
So to that degree, like what is usually, I guess, the first couple of weeks look like for you guys at the beginning of this season? Because I know you haven't raced yet. Nuttycombe's going to be your opener, and I've seen a couple of the younger guys have already raced this year.
Yeah, I think the first few weeks of the season, once we get back to Charlottesville, kind of depends on the person. Like I think Coach Vin and Coach Trevor are very good about talking to us and seeing like where we're at both physically and mentally. Like if we want to race, like if we think that's going to be beneficial, or if we want to wait until a little later in the season, like the Nuttycombe to open up. So I think the first few weeks, like you said, are kind of just about like assessing and getting back into the swing of things, like getting workouts with the guys, really keeping the mileage up, like keeping longer workouts, like longer threshold stuff, but just kind of getting back into the swing of racing and like race pace stuff.
And so, kind of just standing from the sideline after these first two meets, what have you seen from the group and what they were able to do? I know you guys got second to North Carolina, and of course Parker Wolf did not race at the UVA Invitational, but still, that's a solid North Carolina team that you guys are going to be running up against this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask anyone, I think we've all been super encouraged by what we've seen, because our top guys like Will, Wes, Justin have run well. Like maybe I think if you talk to any of them, or Justin ran fantastic, but maybe Will and Wes, if you talk to them, like I know they were hoping for a little bit of a better result versus North Carolina. But the great part was our like 4 to 7 stepped up massively. Like we have first years running in our top 7. We have older guys who are like running at their best right now, like Jack Elias and Jacob Hunter. I think we're really deep. So I think the good thing is we're gonna have a really good top 5, but we're gonna have even better, like even more depth from like 6 to 10, who if someone has an off day or if we need someone to step up, we know we're capable of it. So I think once we field our full lineup, add a couple more guys in, we're gonna be looking really good.
Was that totally different from what it was last year, or were you guys just maybe a little bit, maybe it's the same guys, maybe just a little inexperienced?
I think it's similar to what we had last year, but I think there's more experience and hopefully more depth and more consistency, because I think last year our strength came in the fact that our 1 to 10 were like so close to each other. Like we had such a good pack, but it was kind of depending on the day. I think maybe at nationals we didn't run our best day. Like a couple guys faded a bit, and like guys stepped up, but the guys we needed to run well, like myself and a couple other guys, like maybe didn't have the best day. So I think just this year, that experience, like having couple like getting beat down and wanting to come back, I think we're going to come back more experienced and really just have the depth to like work together and step up when we need it.
Well, that's also asking a lot of those young guys to try to run their fastest in two 10Ks back-to-back weeks. I mean, you yourself have been to the NCAA championships twice now, but how daunting is that really for any athlete? Even if you are an elite level athlete, maybe a favorite to win the NCAA championship, running back-to-back 10Ks at an all-out effort is no easy task.
Yeah, especially for me as a guy who does not touch the 10K on the track, I think
Mhm.
it's a lot to have to come back. I think even it's either I don't know if it's 6 or 8 days later, but
It's whatever it is, it's a very short turnaround.
it's a very quick turnaround. So I think if you're a first or a second year too, and you're not used to like that to that kind of volume of racing late in the season, I think it's just really hard to stay consistent. And I think you see that a lot of the guys who overperform at nationals and run really well are the ones who are able to kind of like keep a controlled effort at regionals. So I think that's a big thing, just kind of like being able to get through regionals without having to really like kill yourself on the course. So I think if you can kind of just get to nationals feeling as fresh as possible, like that's kind of the goal to having a really good day there.
Do you feel like you guys were fresh coming off your regional meet?
I think it depends on the person you ask. Our team last year was a little ravaged with like sickness and just like we had a bunch of like random stuff kind of pop at the end of the season. So I think that kind of took a little bit of a toll on our team, like in between that like regionals and nationals period. But I think some guys, like I think Will Anthony managed it really well. He was like 60th at nationals, so I think he was able to really like control his effort, do well. Yassine stepped up big time at nationals, so I think the blueprint's there. Like we've seen guys in our team who have like a good race at regionals, but still are able to like just like recover, stay refreshed, and then bounce back in nationals. So I think we've seen what we need to do, and I think we're going to be able to do that this year.
And especially the fact is, like, this is your third year. Potentially, you could be racing at your third NCAA champ. You know what to expect from that type of racing. Has been kind of like, drawn some sort of blueprint up for you guys to like when you get into college. All right, listen, guys, like this is a really big transition. You're basically running a half longer or a 5K longer than you would usually do in high school. What does that kind of like blueprint look like to kind of help you adjust to eventually feel a lot more comfortable? Maybe it is this year that you are a lot more comfortable racing a 10K.
Yeah, I think the good thing about Vin and his training is coming in as a first year, he's never gonna rush you or just throw you into like the top group or like the heat of things with training,
Mhm.
which it might mean that maybe you're not as at full strength when you hit 10K, but it also means you're not going to break and you're not going to like get hurt or blow up at the end of the year. So I think first and second year was definitely a progression where each year like I'm getting a little stronger, but maybe not fully at that 10K fitness yet. And I think this year like I feel like I've physically matured a lot. Like I'm handling volume better than I ever have. I feel a lot stronger than I ever had. So obviously 8K comes first. I'm ready to go out there and see what I can do over 8K. But with the workouts I've been doing, with the volume I've been running, I feel pretty confident that I can make the transition to 10K. So it's definitely been a progression.
Like last year when you guys hosted just a bunch of teams that came out to Panorama Farms, like Northern Arizona, BYU, North Carolina. This is the same situation essentially this week because everyone knows Nuttycombe is the NCAA championship course. Preparing for a meet like this, what is your guys' hope? What's your accomplishments? Because it's still early in the season, even though we're getting towards the middle of it. This is still a good opportunity to kind of see what you guys are at.
Yeah, I think it's a tough dynamic because you never want to go like all in on a meet early in the year. Like in obviously Colas points are important, but in the grand scheme of things, like you want to be peaking 2 months from now, like not right now. So I think in your mind you have to kind of approach it with this isn't the end all be all, but you still want to go out and just really like put your good foot forward, like build momentum, get off on the right foot. And I think we're ready to do that. Like just from talking to the guys, I think everyone's super excited, super motivated. Like we're not like the goal isn't to peak right now, so we're not drastically dropping volume, but we're going into it like ready to race, ready to compete, and gonna be fresh and hopefully just pack up, like run really well as a team. And I think rather than try to have like a couple guys go out there and win the race, just really like run well as a group, make our moves in towards the end of the race and just move up and really put ourselves in a position to place high as a team.
Are you more excited for the fact that you get to race against really good competition or the fact that you get to be on a new course for the very first time?
I think I always get more excited about the competitions because so I'm gonna go with that. But yeah, I mean, a new course is always exciting, but I think you always get up a little more when you know there's gonna be like the best guys in the country, and especially like looking back at last year, I think racing against the best guys in the country at our home meet, I kind of surprised myself because I wasn't sure how my fitness was going to translate to 8K, and I don't know if I would have had the confidence that I had like going into ACCs and the postseason if I didn't get the chance to just like throw myself into the fire early and just see what I could do against the best guys in the country. So I think that's a really good opportunity to build confidence and just beat some really good guys and know that you can hang with them.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, like you kind of going off of your point from last year. I mean, Drew Bosley won that race in Virginia. Parker was second. Kai was third. You yourself were 13th overall. I mean, we're going to expect a really good field this weekend. Parker probably in the mix. You throw obviously yourself in the mix, and heck, Casey Klinger now. I mean, we haven't seen Casey on the cross country course, and I think it's been over 2 years now since he's been there. So how exciting is that, especially since Casey is part of the Brooks family? Like, to race against it. I think this will be your very first time racing Casey.
I think so. We might have. I forget if he ran at the 2022 Cross Nationals. I might have raced him there, but
Which he might have. He might have. But
I
also, but like,
forget.
yeah. But from a competitive standpoint, you should be up there with him.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Casey, he's a guy who he's so seasoned on the national level, and you know that he's so talented. He's such a good runner, and I think if I can put myself in the mix with him and just run with him and guys like Parker, guys like Rocky Hansen, like these guys who were so high up at Nuttycombe last year, like I think like yeah, I'm ready for the challenge. Like I think I'm excited. I'm ready to throw myself into the mix and just battle it out.
And especially a guy like Rocky Hansen, who, I know you ran as a freshman at NCAA championships, but he was somebody that really kind of just took off last year and kind of found like the 8K and the 10K to be his groove. But was that something you kind of noticed of him when he was in high school, or was that just kind of like a kind of a shock to a lot of people?
I think as a spectator, it was definitely a shock. Just like not even but obviously Rocky Hansen was a like incredibly talented high schooler, but I don't think I'd seen someone make the transition that seamlessly since I don't know, like Nico Young or Grant Fisher. Like it's pretty rare that or even Parker Wolf. Sorry, I don't mean to jump over Parker Wolf because I know he was an All-American. I think he was an All-American as a first year as well, but it's pretty rare where someone comes into college and just makes that jump to 8K like so seamlessly. So that was definitely impressive just to see him like display that kind of aerobic fitness over 8K. And it's super exciting, like having him in the ACC, having Parker in the ACC. I think some of the best guys in the country are in our conference. So it's a really good preview to see what we're going to be matching up with at conferences.
Well, especially just looking at the amount of teams that are in the ACC this year that are within that top 30, do you feel that conference is as strong as it's going to get this season?
Is it as strong as,
As strong as like if you've seen in the last couple of years. Like I mean, I'm seeing North
oh,
Carolina at number 6. You guys are at 15. Syracuse is at 19. Wake Forest is at 20. Heck, you throw other teams probably in the mix. It's even a deeper conference. What like Stanford? I mean, Stanford's now. I totally
yeah,
forget about
I
the,
was just
the
going to,
Cardinal.
yeah.
Even though I'm a West Coast guy, so I'm like, Pac-12. But like Stanford, that's another school. There's like 5 teams right there.
Yeah, I think it's every year it's kind of like it feels like the ACC is getting better. And I mean, I think, I think the trend's continuing. You add Stanford into the mix and there's a lot of nationally ranked teams. And I think the cool thing is there's not just one or two heavyweights. There's like six, seven teams who are all kind of in that like 5 to 20 range, and who knows how it's going to play out at ACCs. Like what we see at Nuttycombe may be completely different than the order we see at ACC. So I think it's really cool just to like from a team standpoint, like to not go into conference and be like, hey, like we're gonna be the first team or we're gonna be the fourth team. Like it's gonna be a battle, and I think it's pretty cool just to have that kind of depth in a conference and know that its guys are gonna see all season at the top invitationals, at ACCs and regionals and then nationals.
Knowing this will be the first of potentially 2 opportunities this season at the Thomas Zimmer Championship course, what's the big goal you guys want to accomplish with this meet? What do you want to leave Madison knowing it's like, all right, we did this, or can we prove upon this?
I think we just want to go in and like prove to ourselves that we're as good as we think we are. Like show the world that we're as good as we think we are because we have a lot of guys who have been training really well, who are really talented, and Obviously, it's a new course. We're going to be learning that. So I think that's the goal, just get a feel for the course. But I think if we walk away with like a high team finish and we run as well as we think we could, I think we just want to establish momentum for the rest of the season and just get on the right foot and really come out on Friday, make a statement, and then get back to work, keep getting better.
It's simple as that. And obviously, this is a Who's
Simple.
team that brings, like I said, brings a lot of guys back. 6 guys from that national championship team last year that's hoping to, improve upon what I believe was like a 22nd, 24th place finish at nationals.
Yeah, I think 20,
Obviously
22nd.
something you didn't necessarily want to do on your own course, but again, like this team has a lot of potential this year, and of course, it's going to be led by this young man right here, and Gary Martin. Gary, really appreciate your time, man. Wish you nothing but the best in the Who's on this Friday at the Nuttycombe Invitational. Of course, anybody that can tune into the Nuttycombe Invitational, it'll be on runnerspace.com. Appreciate your time, Gary. Good luck this Friday.
Thanks, Keenan.